Marcus was used to helping people. He was the kind of person who would stop to assist anyone in need, whether it was a neighbor struggling with groceries or a friend who needed a ride. It wasn't anything special to him. It was just who he was. He had grown up believing that kindness was the key to making the world a better place, and he always tried to live by that. One sunny afternoon, as he was walking down the street, Marcus noticed a woman standing by her car, clearly struggling. She was holding her stomach and looked pale, with beads of sweat on her forehead. Her car was parked by the side of the road, and her phone was in her hand. She appeared to be making a call, but something about her demeanor told Marcus that she was in trouble. Without thinking twice, Marcus approached her. "Are you all right, Mom?" he asked, his voice calm and concerned. The woman looked up, surprised but relieved to see him. I'm not feeling well," she said softly. "I'm pregnant, and I think I'm having some complications. I'm supposed to get to the hospital, but my car broke down." Marcus could see the pain in her eyes. He quickly assessed the situation. Her car wasn't going anywhere, and she needed help immediately. "Don't worry," Marcus said. "I'll take you to the hospital. Just get in." The woman hesitated for a moment, looking at the car that had broken down and then back at Marcus. There was something about his kindness that made her trust him. She had no other choice. "Thank you," she said, her voice shaky. Marcus opened the passenger door for her, helping her get in gently. He then slid into the driver's seat and immediately started the car. "Hang in there," he said. "We'll get you to the hospital in no time." As they drove, Marcus could tell the woman was in pain. She was breathing heavily, clutching her stomach. Marcus kept a steady pace, trying to avoid any bumps in the road that might make her more uncomfortable. He kept glancing at her, making sure she was okay. "I'm Rachel," she said after a few moments of silence, breaking the tension. "Thank you again for helping me. I don't know what I would have done." "No need to thank me," Marcus replied. "I'm just glad I was here to help." They talked briefly about how Rachel was doing, and she explained that she was due any day now. She had been trying to get everything ready for her baby, but today had been one of those days where nothing seemed to go right. First, her car broke down, and now she was in pain and couldn't get to the hospital by herself. Marcus listened patiently, offering comforting words and making sure she stayed calm as they reached the hospital. When they arrived, Marcus helped her out of the car and walked her inside. The nurses immediately rushed over to assist, and Marcus was able to provide them with the details they needed. As the nurses took over, Marcus stayed by Rachel's side for a few moments longer, offering her his support. "You're in good hands now," he said, giving her a reassuring smile. Rachel smiled weakly, grateful for the help. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. Marcus simply nodded. "Take care of yourself and the baby. That's all that matters." Before he left, Rachel thanked him again, and Marcus stepped out of the hospital, feeling a sense of relief that he had been able to help. He didn't think much of it. For him, it was just another act of kindness, a simple gesture that he knew could make all the difference in the world. But little did Marcus know, this moment would mark the beginning of something that would change his life forever. The next morning, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something was different. Helping Rachel had been easy for him, almost automatic, but the encounter had left a mark on him. He thought about the urgency in her voice, the way she had trusted him without hesitation. There was a sense of connection between them, even if they had only known each other for a few hours. As Marcus left his apartment and got into his car to go to work, he tried to focus on the day ahead. He had a busy schedule, but something about Rachel's situation kept tugging at his mind. Was she okay? He wondered. Was the baby all right? After driving a few blocks, Marcus noticed something strange. As he made a left turn onto a quieter street, he saw a motorcycle in his rearview mirror. It was a man riding, his face hidden behind the helmet. Nothing out of the ordinary at first, but as Marcus continued driving, he couldn't shake the feeling that the motorcycle was following him. It's probably just a coincidence, Marcus thought. Maybe he's heading the same way. However, as the motorcycle stayed behind him for several more minutes, Marcus began to feel a little uneasy. He tried to focus on the road, but the feeling of being watched was hard to ignore. Every turn he made, the motorcycle made too. It was always a little too close, just far enough behind to make Marcus uncomfortable. Trying to push the strange feeling aside, Marcus pulled into the parking lot of the office building where he worked. As he parked his car, he glanced in his rearview mirror again. The motorcycle had followed him into the lot. His heart skipped a beat. Why is this guy following me? Marcus tried to brush it off as paranoia. He wasn't the kind of person to overthink things, but the situation felt odd. The rider didn't get off his bike immediately. Instead, he just sat there, watching Marcus from across the lot. Marcus knew he had to get out of the car, but the tension in the air was thick. Taking a deep breath, Marcus opened the door and stepped out. As he walked toward the entrance of the building, he noticed the rider wasn't leaving. The motorcycle stayed parked, engine running, as though waiting for something. Marcus couldn't ignore the growing discomfort. He decided to go inside quickly and hope that whoever was riding the bike would just leave. As he entered the building, he glanced back one last time. The motorcycle was still there, parked and unmoving. Throughout the day, Marcus tried to focus on his work, but his mind kept returning to the motorcycle. He kept thinking about the way it had followed him and how it seemed out of place. The more he thought about it, the more suspicious he became. Was it just a random encounter, or was there something more going on? At lunch, Marcus made a mental note to watch out for anything unusual, but he had no idea how much this strange encounter would affect the next few days of his life. That afternoon, Marcus received a message from Rachel. She thanked him again for helping her and said that she and the baby were doing fine. The message was brief, but Marcus felt a sense of relief wash over him. At least he knew she was okay. But as he read the message, he couldn't shake the nagging feeling in the back of his mind. Something was off, and the motorcycle that had followed him that morning seemed more than just a coincidence. As Marcus left work that evening, the mystery of the rider continued to linger. Little did he know, the motorcycle wasn't the only thing that would follow him in the days to come. Something much bigger was about to unfold, and it would change his life in ways he never expected. The following days felt like a blur to Marcus. The motorcycle was still there, following him each morning as he drove to work, and again when he left the office. It had now become more than just a strange coincidence. It was starting to feel like a constant presence in his life, hovering at the edges of his day. Marcus couldn't ignore it any longer. The rider never approached him or caused any direct trouble, but the repeated sightings made Marcus uneasy. Every time he glanced in the rearview mirror, the motorcycle was there, always a few cars behind, always staying just far enough to make him feel like he was being watched. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was going to happen. On Friday afternoon, Marcus decided to take a different route home. He was determined to break the pattern. As he turned onto a new street, he checked his mirror. The motorcycle wasn't there. For a brief moment, Marcus felt a wave of relief wash over him. He thought maybe, just maybe, he had finally escaped whatever had been following him. However, as he neared an intersection a few minutes later, the familiar sound of a motorcycle engine roared in the distance. Marcus' heart sank. The rider was back. The motorcycle appeared around the corner and started to close the gap. Marcus gripped the steering wheel, his nerves on edge. He had to know who was behind it. Was it just a coincidence, or was there something more to this strange situation? Marcus decided to take a bold step. He pulled into a gas station, hoping that the rider would pass him by. But instead, the motorcycle slowed down and stopped just a few feet away. The rider dismounted, his helmet still on, and began walking toward Marcus' car. Marcus took a deep breath. This was it. He had to confront the person who had been following him. The man removed his helmet, revealing a face that was unfamiliar. He was tall, with dark hair and a serious expression. "Hey," the man said, his voice calm but firm. "I've been trying to get your attention." Marcus stared at him, confused. "What do you want?" he asked. The man hesitated for a moment, then spoke again. "I owe you an apology," he said, sounding sincere. "My name is Jake. I'm Rachel's brother." The name took Marcus by surprise. He had helped Rachel just a few days ago when she was in distress. She had thanked him, but he had no idea she had a brother, or that he was the one behind the mysterious motorcycle. "Rachel's brother," Marcus repeated, still trying to process the information. "Why have you been following me?" Jake seemed to notice Marcus' confusion and quickly explained, "It's not what you think. I've been following you because I wanted to thank you. Rachel's been through a lot, and I've been worried about her. I wanted to make sure she was safe and that you weren't just some random person." Marcus took a step back, still not fully understanding. "You were worried about your sister, so you've been following me around?" he asked, trying to make sense of the situation. Jake nodded. "Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but I've been protective of Rachel for years. After you helped her, I just wanted to make sure she was okay, and that you were who you said you were." The tension in the air began to lift as Marcus realized that this wasn't some strange person with bad intentions. It was a concerned brother looking out for his sister. "Look, I'm sorry about all this," Jake said, his voice apologetic. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. I just needed to know she was safe, and I figured this was the only way." Marcus took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of relief and understanding. "It's okay," he said. "I get it now. But next time, just talk to me. I'm not the bad guy." Jake laughed, clearly relieved. "I promise, no more surprises." As they stood there, both men chuckled a little, breaking the tension completely. Jake apologized again and assured Marcus that he would stop following him. Marcus, still slightly shaken by the events, accepted the apology. The mystery was solved, but it had been an uncomfortable ride. As Marcus drove home that evening, he couldn't help but feel a strange sense of calm. The uncertainty that had followed him for days had finally been cleared up. The strange motorcycle was no longer a source of anxiety. It was just Jake, a protective brother who wanted to ensure his sister's safety. Marcus realized that sometimes even the oddest situations could be explained with understanding and patience. And as for Rachel, he knew she was lucky to have such a caring brother by her side. After the confrontation with Jake, Marcus felt a sense of relief. The tension that had been building for days was finally gone. He could now move on with his life, knowing that the mysterious motorcycle wasn't a threat. But as the days passed, Marcus couldn't help but think about Jake's words. The protective brother who had been looking out for his sister, Rachel's brother, had only been concerned for her safety. Rachel had come into his life unexpectedly, but Marcus now realized that her troubles ran deeper than just one hospital visit. She had a family, someone who cared for her, and that thought stuck with him. The next morning, Marcus decided to check in with Rachel. He had helped her in a time of need, and though their bond was brief, he felt a responsibility to make sure she was doing well. As he reached for his phone, he remembered how grateful Rachel had been when he helped her, but there was more to the story. Now, he wanted to know if she was okay, if she had her life back on track. He sent a simple text. "Hey Rachel, just checking in to see how you're doing. Hope everything is going well." A few minutes later, he received a reply. "Hi Marcus, thanks for reaching out. I'm doing much better, and the baby is healthy. I can't thank you enough for what you did for me. I truly appreciate it." Marcus smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. It was good to hear that she was doing well. He replied quickly, "I'm glad to hear that. I've been thinking about you. I know you've been through a lot, and I just wanted to make sure you're okay." Rachel responded with a grateful message. "It's been a tough road, but I'm getting there. Having the baby was a big step, and I'm taking it one day at a time. My brother, Jake, has been helping a lot too. I think you two would get along well. He's a little overprotective, but I know it's because he cares." Marcus chuckled at the message. He had learned that firsthand when Jake had followed him. He couldn't help but admire Jake's loyalty to his sister. "Maybe we can all meet up soon," Marcus suggested. "It would be good to meet Jake and see how you're both doing." Rachel agreed, and they made plans to meet at a nearby park the following weekend. Marcus was looking forward to it. It would be nice to put a face to the name of the man who had caused him so much confusion. But more importantly, he was happy to be part of Rachel's recovery process, even if just as a friend. The weekend came quickly, and Marcus drove to the park to meet Rachel and Jake. As he arrived, he spotted Rachel sitting on a bench, gently rocking her baby in a stroller. She looked peaceful, content, and Marcus was glad to see her so well. As he walked over to her, Rachel smiled brightly and stood to greet him. "Hey Marcus, I'm so glad you could make it." "Of course," Marcus said with a grin. "It's good to see you doing well." Before long, Jake appeared, walking toward them with a big smile on his face. He looked nothing like the tense man Marcus had first met. Jake's expression was friendly and open, and Marcus immediately understood why Rachel had kept him in her life. "Hey man," Jake said, extending his hand. "Thanks again for everything you did for my sister. I owe you one." Marcus shook Jake's hand firmly. "No need for that. I'm just glad I could help." As they all sat on the park bench, the conversation flowed easily. Rachel shared stories about her baby and how she was adjusting to life with a newborn, while Jake spoke about his own experiences and how he had been helping Rachel settle in. Marcus realized that despite the rocky start, they had formed a bond of trust and understanding. By the time they parted ways that afternoon, Marcus felt a sense of peace. The situation had started with an act of kindness, but it had blossomed into something much more meaningful. He wasn't just someone who had helped a woman in need. He had made new friends and perhaps even formed a new support system. As he drove home, Marcus reflected on how the smallest of actions could create ripples in people's lives. What had started as a simple, kind gesture had led him to meet two incredible people who, despite their differences and struggles, shared the common bond of family and love. Marcus knew that sometimes the right thing to do was to simply be there for someone, and that was exactly what he had done. In the end, it wasn't just about helping a woman get to the hospital. It was about building connections that could last a lifetime. It had been a few weeks since Marcus met Rachel and Jake at the park. As time passed, Marcus found that he was slowly becoming a bigger part of their lives. He didn't just think of Rachel as the woman he helped once. She was becoming a friend, and so was Jake. There was something about the bond they shared that felt genuine. Marcus was beginning to realize how much of an impact small acts of kindness could have. One afternoon, Marcus received a call from Rachel. She had something exciting to share. "Hey Marcus," she said, her voice full of energy. "I wanted to let you know that I'm doing really well. I'm finally getting the hang of motherhood, and I'm starting to feel more like myself again." Marcus smiled. "That's great to hear. I'm really glad you're doing better." Rachel continued, "I've been thinking about something, and I wanted to ask you if you'd be willing to help me with something important. I'm planning to start a support group for new mothers in the area. I want to create a space where women can talk about their struggles and share advice. It would mean a lot if you could be a part of it." Marcus was surprised, but also touched. "Of course. I would love to help in any way I can. I think it's a great idea." Rachel's voice brightened. "Thank you so much, Marcus. I knew you'd be on board. I think your perspective as someone who's been there for me and Jake will really be valuable. Plus, it would mean a lot to have you involved, just to make sure everything runs smoothly." Marcus felt honored. Helping Rachel with the support group was something he never expected, but he was glad to be a part of it. Over the next few weeks, he worked with Rachel to get the group off the ground. They decided to meet once a week at the community center, where mothers could gather, talk, and offer advice to each other. Marcus helped by creating flyers, promoting the group online, and even assisting with some of the meetings. As the support group grew, more and more mothers began to join. They were grateful to have a safe space where they could talk about their experiences without fear of judgment. For Rachel, this group became more than just a project. It was a way to heal. By helping others, she was also helping herself. And Marcus was there every step of the way, offering support, advice, and his time. Jake also became involved, although he was less active in the group itself. Instead, he focused on helping behind the scenes, making sure things ran smoothly. The three of them made a great team, and their combined efforts created something special for the community. One evening, after the support group meeting had ended, Marcus found himself alone with Rachel and Jake. They were sitting in a quiet corner of the community center, reflecting on how far they had come. Rachel smiled at Marcus. "I can't thank you enough for everything. You've been such a great friend, and your help has meant more than I can say." Marcus shook his head. "I'm just glad I could be here. You've both helped me as much as I'd helped you." Jake chimed in. "It's true. We've all grown through this, and I think it's safe to say we've become more than just friends. We're a family now." Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of contentment he hadn't experienced before. He had come into Rachel's life as a stranger, but now they were all bound by something deeper than just an act of kindness. They had formed a real connection, one that would last for a long time. As Marcus walked out of the community center that evening, he thought back to the first time he had helped Rachel. At the time, he had no idea how much that one act would change his life. But now, it was clear that helping others had a way of creating bonds, not just between strangers, but between friends who became family. As he walked down the street, Marcus smiled to himself. He knew that he had made a difference in Rachel and Jake's lives, but in doing so, they had made a difference in his as well. As the weeks went by, the support group that Marcus, Rachel, and Jake had started began to thrive. More and more mothers showed up each week, and the group had grown into a close-knit community. Women who had felt isolated and overwhelmed now had a place to share their experiences, support one another, and feel heard. Rachel's dream of creating a safe space for new mothers had truly come to life. Marcus was amazed by how much the group had impacted the community. It wasn't just about offering advice. It was about the connection that these women were forming with each other. Watching them come together, sharing their struggles and triumphs, made Marcus realize how important it was to have support when facing difficult times. One evening, after a particularly successful meeting, Marcus and Rachel sat down to reflect on how far they had come. Rachel was beaming with pride, her baby boy asleep in her arms, as she glanced at the group of women talking in the corner. "This is exactly what I envisioned," Rachel said, her voice filled with gratitude. "I can't believe how much this group has grown. I never thought we'd be able to make such an impact, but here we are." Marcus smiled, glad to be a part of it. "You've done an amazing job," he said, "but this group wouldn't be what it is without you. You brought this together." Rachel shook her head. "No, Marcus, it wouldn't have happened without you. You've been there for me, for all of us. You've helped in ways I didn't even know I needed." Marcus felt humbled by her words. He never expected that one simple act of kindness would lead him here, surrounded by new friends, all of them working together to support each other. It was a feeling that went beyond just helping someone. It was about building a community, a sense of belonging. But not everything was easy. The journey wasn't without its challenges. As the support group grew, so did the difficulties of managing it. There were times when the group struggled to stay organized, and occasionally members disagreed. Rachel, as the leader, found herself trying to balance the needs of everyone while also caring for her baby. She sometimes felt overwhelmed. One evening, after a particularly stressful meeting, Rachel confided in Marcus. They were sitting alone in the community center, the room quiet after everyone had left. "I'm starting to feel like I'm not enough for everyone," she admitted, her voice soft. "There's so much to manage. My baby, the group, everything. I'm scared I'll let someone down." Marcus, who had been there from the start, gently reassured her. "You're doing an amazing job, Rachel. Don't doubt yourself. This group is stronger because of you, and you've already helped so many women. You're not alone in this, okay? We're all in this together." Rachel looked at him, tears welling in her eyes. "I don't know what I would have done without you, Marcus. You've been like a rock for me." Marcus smiled warmly, feeling a sense of pride. "And I'll always be here for you. We're all family now." As they sat there, Marcus realized that Rachel wasn't just looking for help with the group. She was also looking for emotional support. And that's exactly what Marcus had been providing all along. In a way, helping her had also helped him. It had opened his heart to a new kind of connection, one that went beyond mere kindness. It was about loyalty, about showing up for people who needed you, and about being there when things weren't perfect. The next few days were a turning point for Rachel. With Marcus and Jake's continued support, she found a new strength within herself. She began to delegate tasks for the group more effectively and found new ways to manage her responsibilities as a mother and a leader. Slowly, she regained her confidence and realized that she didn't have to do everything on her own. She had people who cared about her and were willing to help. As the group continued to grow, so did Marcus' connection with Rachel and Jake. What had started as a random act of kindness had turned into something meaningful, something that had changed not only Rachel's life, but also Marcus. The support group wasn't just helping the mothers who attended. It was transforming everyone involved. Marcus knew that this was just the beginning. The friendships, the bonds, and the connections they were building would last far beyond the community center walls. And in the end, that was what mattered most. The power of kindness and community had created something bigger than any of them had imagined. As the weeks went on, Marcus felt like a more natural part of Rachel and Jake's lives. They were no longer just people he had helped. They were friends and family, people who had shared their struggles and triumphs with him. The support group continued to grow, bringing together even more mothers who found solace in the community that had been created. Rachel had regained her confidence, and it was evident in the way she now led the meetings. She had become a more relaxed leader, someone who trusted the group members to help and contribute. The once overwhelming task of managing everything had become a shared responsibility, and Rachel was learning to lean on her friends, especially Marcus and Jake, for support when she needed it. One Saturday afternoon, after a particularly successful support group meeting, Marcus sat down with Rachel and Jake to discuss what had been happening lately. "I can't believe how much the group has grown," Rachel said, looking at the circle of women who were chatting and laughing in the background. "It feels like just yesterday we were starting with a handful of people, and now look at this." Jake grinned, his arms crossed over his chest as he nodded. "You've done amazing work, Rachel. And Marcus, you've been a huge part of making this all happen." Marcus smiled, though he felt a little shy about the compliment. "I've just been helping out where I can. You two are the ones who have really made this happen." Rachel looked at Marcus with appreciation. "You've been more than just a helping hand, Marcus. You've become someone we can rely on. And that's something I didn't realize I needed until I found it." The three of them sat together, reflecting on how far they had come. Marcus was proud of what they had built together. The group wasn't just a place for mothers to talk about their experiences. It had become a true community. It was a place of support, encouragement, and friendship. "Thank you," Rachel said, her voice soft but sincere, "for everything. I know this hasn't been easy. You've been there for me, for Jake, and for everyone in this group." Marcus nodded. "I've learned a lot through this too. It's not just about helping people. It's about being there for each other, no matter what." The weeks that followed were filled with progress. More mothers joined the group, and word began to spread about the impact it was having on the community. People saw the difference that Rachel's support group was making, and they wanted to be a part of it. The group began to host occasional events, like family picnics and group outings, to help the mothers connect outside of the community center. Rachel, Marcus, and Jake organized these gatherings, and each one was a chance for the group members to bond and build friendships that extended beyond their weekly meetings. At one of these picnics, Marcus found himself chatting with several of the mothers. They talked about everything from parenting tips to their favorite local spots for food. It felt good to be part of such a warm, welcoming group. These women, many of whom had once felt alone, now had each other to lean on, and Marcus was proud to be a part of it all. As the sun began to set that day, Marcus sat back and looked around at the laughter and conversations. He realized that his life had changed in ways he hadn't expected. What had started as a simple act of kindness had led him to form a deeper connection with Rachel, Jake, and the community. The motorcycle that had followed him all those days now seemed like a distant memory. The journey he had taken wasn't just about helping a stranger in need. It was about creating something lasting, something that would continue to grow and inspire others for years to come. Marcus knew that life wasn't always going to be easy. There would be challenges ahead, and things wouldn't always be perfect. But he also knew that he had a strong support system: Rachel, Jake, and the wonderful group of mothers who had become like family to him. They were all in this together, and that made all the difference. As the picnic came to an end and people began to gather their things, Rachel came over to Marcus with a big smile on her face. "Thank you for being here, for being a part of this. It means the world to me." Marcus smiled back, feeling content and proud. "I'm just glad to be part of something that matters."